learn more about how to take care of ourselves naturally, which is definitely the motto of One Piece Therapy. So to start, my name is Cassandra Francis, and I wear a lot of hats all the time. But ultimately, to share that I am the founder of One Piece Therapy and one of the registered psychotherapists at the practice as well. And I also do keynote speaking and group facilitation. So please do interact with me, ask questions, say things. It's not necessarily group therapy, so we don't have to be too vulnerable if you don't want to be, but if you have questions about our services and everything, I try to be a bit more thorough, but please engage. I don't want to just hear my voice, please. Okay, all right. Okay, so I have an agenda, but I just put it more for show. Again, when you have questions, feel free to ask. But I did put it at the end as well, but ultimately I'll just be sharing a bit about myself and about the practice today. Okay, so introduction. Who am I, you ask? So, how did I get here? It's been a journey, and I've learned to package my journey in a way that sounds nice and sweet, but there's been a lot. So actually I started in the wellness field as a dancer. In my childhood, I danced. I used to actually practice here in the Malvern Community Center. My choreographer was Tamala Matthews. I don't know if anyone's. Yes. So we did a lot of traveling together. So that's what I wanted to be when I grew up, but I am Jamaican descent, and it came a point where my parents were like, okay, so what do you actually want to be when you grow up? So saying a dancer was not accepted, unfortunately. It was more of an extracurricular entertainment, but nonetheless, it did lead me on a beautiful journey. So still knowing I wanted to work with my body, work with the body, explore how it moves. I just love the anatomy ultimately. So I did start to tap into more like physiotherapy, physical health, and in that space, I was at Sunnybrook for a little bit, but I did not like that position. I found it was just, assigning exercise. Let me not downplay physiotherapists, actually. They're very important, but this wasn't for me. As much it was great assigning different exercises and helping out clientele, I really found value in having deeper conversations about what people were going through with the change of, just recovering from surgery. So it's an identity shift, it's a life transition, sometimes it's grief, and I found fascination in it. So with that, I began to tap into psychology and really learn about the mind. And with learning about the mind, I don't know if is anyone else in the health psychology here? No? Okay. So when you study psychology, you learn a lot about who you are, whether you like it or not. You're self-diagnosing all the time, you're assessing, you're reflecting, there's so many pieces to it, and it's been a beautiful and phenomenal journey to tap into myself when I was trying to help tap into other people. And with tapping into myself and calling family issues, mental health related, I'm like, okay, this is real. This is real. This feels uncomfortable, but it feels very necessary. So I started to learn about my own mental health, and I actually wanted to see a therapist when I was very young. And I thought to see a therapist, you have to go see your doctor. So when I went to my doctor, I was like, I need to talk to someone. I have some daddy issues. I have different family things going on. I need to talk. And she said, well, I'm not gonna prescribe you any medication. It's probably easier to just cut your dad out of your life than anything else. And I'm just like, that's not what I wanted to hear. I just needed someone to talk to. I didn't want medication. So it was unfortunate I didn't get that support, but knowing the process I had to go go through in that way, I definitely realized for my own self that still studying in the beginnings of studying psychology, I'm like, okay, I don't want people of color, Black people specifically, to feel like they have to go through their medical doctor and feel rejected to get support. So that's specifically why I wanted to be a psychotherapist, because you can just come on in as you are. If you feel you're ready, then we're ready for you. And that was very precious to me to have that access, and also experience that service in my own self. I'm actually trying not to cry, to be very honest with you. But it's been a beautiful journey, very beautiful journey. Any questions? Because again, give me some energy, y'all.
When I think of psychotherapy versus like psychiatry, is the difference one is administering medication and the other one not?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So psychiatrists, they're like the family physicians that we typically go to, but they're only for like assessing, diagnosing, and prescribing medication. Psychologists, they also do the assessing and the diagnosing, but not necessarily prescribing of medication. And then psychotherapists, such as myself, we do the treatment part. So we do the talk therapy, we use different modalities to help you get through your concerns or maybe your life if it's long term. But yeah, that's the difference. Thank you for that. And I find social work is very similar too. There's a different educational background. They're more like sociology, like community and resources, whereas psychology, which is what I mastered in, it's just the mind. But with my experiences personally, professionally, I realized how much it's important to integrate the mind and body into supporting someone and their holistic self ultimately, which is the slogan, this holistic wellness therapy. Because we're not just our mind, we're not just our body. We do have culture, we have spirituality, we have our careers, like so much things makes us us. So I don't know where that came from, but that's where I went. Okay, so yeah, so who do I support? So I predominantly support individuals, 16 and older, and couples. And I do offer in-person and virtual sessions as well. And what concerns do I support? So there's a wide range. I do specialize more in identity stuff, so like self-esteem, self-worth, cultural concerns, life transitions, grief, trauma, and then PTSD, various things I support clients with, and anxiety and depression are unfortunately common. I think that's important to just pause and say. So there's a lot of things that are common, but not necessarily quote unquote normal, right? So a lot of people experience anxiety, but that doesn't mean that that is how our life is meant to be, right? You don't have to be anxious, even though it is a feeling. So I think that's important to know. There's a lot of like colloquial language, like, oh, I'm just anxious, all right, which could be true, but you don't have to live that way. I think that's important. And what modalities? So I do predominantly offer trauma-informed support. So I do somatic work, again, just connecting the body to self and to mind. I do emotion-focused therapy as well. So I love talking about the root of your concern, and I'm sure in different ways we have root healing services here. What do I say? Yes, and culturally sensitive as well. Again, with my Jamaican descent, I do bring it in because growing up in a Jamaican household, being first generation, I basically feel like I grew up in Jamaica, honestly. Like, you really do take on some of the norms. So I do bring that in my spaces when I support clients as well. Okay, so about us. So I do have a team. This is not the team by any means, but it's a nice image, kind of like a reflection. Okay, so about us. So our mission. So we offer holistic wellness therapy for individuals, couples, and families and groups across Canada. So we center the unique experience of the BIPOC community, as well as we do welcome all identities, but again, our team is made up of people of color, so that is who we specialize in. We understand that each person is more than their struggles and culture and community. So again, ultimately, our mission is to integrate all of you into your care so we can support you to be your best self. Any questions? Any comments? Any questions? So about us with our vision. So our vision is ultimately to create holistic spaces for people of color. So not only do we offer, and I'll actually be getting into it shortly, but we offer psychotherapy and nutritional services. We also offer psychoeducational events. So there are webinars that we host monthly and they are free. Because again, I find with so again, within the community of people of color, you know, I think regardless of the background, I often find that there's a stigma about mental health. It's very taboo. Don't talk about it. Don't act like something is wrong. Just keep pushing, you know, and there's beauty in the resilience of what we can do. However, there's also such a thing as toxic positivity. Has anyone heard of that?
I have.
Okay. Okay, do you want to share what you know about it, please?
Okay, so pretty much toxic positivity is like when people tell you push back, you don't when you kind of ignore the negative and you don't try to focus on it, but you have those thoughts in your head, but it's like, okay, I'm just gonna keep going, things are good, but you're not really addressing the issue, you're just kind of putting a band-aid over it and keep going, and then eventually just builds up under the pressure.
Explodes. Perfect. Yes, exactly. So as much as it's beautiful to keep it moving, we're also human, right? There's most things we need to address. Sometimes it's not the time for it, so we delay it, but ultimately we do need to address our health because it can explode into something else. Especially, let me just pause here and say, with Black women too, we often experience a lot of psychosomatic concerns. So whatever we don't address in our mind, it manifests in our body. I don't want to put my mom on the spot, but you know, bless her heart. You know, there's things that she experiences in her body, and you know, you can do numerous scans. Like the scans say you're fine, this test is fine. It's okay, so what's going on? I'm still feeling pain in my back, or you know, all over the place, and that's mental health. That is mental health, because again, the mind and body are connected. And there are natural resources to heal. We don't need medication to do everything for us. Okay, so some of our values, of course, holistic wellness. Again, I do believe in medication for certain reasons. I just don't practice it. For obvious reasons, I'm not qualified to practice it. But honestly, the mind, the body, it can heal itself in various ways as long as there's tools to help you aid in that healing journey. So the holistic wellness, I found like really getting to the root of the concern creates a sustainable healing journey versus just talking about the symptoms or curing the symptoms. So that's definitely one of our values, as well as quality of care. So with my team, I mentioned that the quality of care is not only with what we give our clients, of course they are very important to us, but also how we take care of ourselves. So anyone in any type of health practice, you know that you really put yourself into the work, and when you're taking care of yourself, your client is really not getting the best of you, and it's important that people get the best of you, and that's what you're there for, right? Quality of care, also communication, being very transparent in how we communicate. There's nothing like, you're not gonna know what's on your record, or you're not gonna know what we think or how we can help you. Everything is very clear, and teamwork. So as I mentioned, we do have a nutritionist on the team as well. So when needed, we do talk about, even amongst ourselves, like, okay, this client, we don't say names, but confidentiality is important. It's crucial. But let's say we're having a concern, we're talking about someone might experience like irritable bowel syndrome. Is anyone familiar with that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So the nutritionist can help offer different meal plans and still culturally inclusive, not necessarily just, white rice, chicken, it's definitely making it flavorful, but something that can support your digestive system, whereas the mental health aspect can help with the root of how come this symptom is there, because it is a symptom. So we do talk amongst each other when we feel, okay, this is not just a physical concern, this is a mental concern. Any questions?
Okay, so how do you integrate with like Western medicine? So at what point do you tell your doctor, I need to see a psychotherapist, or if nothing happens, if they can't find any symptom, any cause for your symptoms, do they recommend it? How can we get access to? Sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, so to confirm, how do you get access to our services?
Not specifically your, but at what point do we decide that we need a psychotherapist? Or does your doctor tell you? Do you tell you?
It depends what you are experiencing. Mm-hmm. I find a lot of clients tend to know when they're ready to talk to someone. So, yes, and it depends what you're experiencing. Maybe it is even parenting. We have some parents that come in and they're like, okay, you know what, my child is not listening to me. I don't understand these new things that are coming up with technology. Like, I need to talk to someone to get guidance. So feel like you need support and professional unbiased support. That's usually a good indicator. Yeah.
What about when you have pains in your body and there's no apparent reason? Can you tell your doctor, I need to see a psychotherapist?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you definitely can. I find some doctors are more progressive in nature, so they might already know, okay, this is a good reason to see a psychotherapist. Right? You don't necessarily need medication for the pain, but you might need to talk to the mental health concern, right? So for example, if the pain was caused by maybe a car accident, and you need to still process the trauma of a car accident, then that would be a good indicator that, okay, it's time to talk about that because this pain is overwhelming, and then unprocessed trauma. Yes. You're welcome. Yes.
I personally believe that all of us need to have support of a psychotherapist.
I agree.
I mean, everyone.
Yeah. I agree. Because
because it's looked down upon, or you're getting assistance from someone who studied the brain and even in its connection with the body. We don't study that.
Right.
So why wouldn't you want to know it and get help through trauma, because everyone has trauma.
Exactly.
If it's not even in this lifetime and everything was all fancy and wonderful, it's been in past lifetimes we've carried them forward. So
exactly.
I think it's important for everyone. Personally, I don't think you need to search for a reason.
It's true.
You'll find it.
When you go. We'll come to you.
When you go.
Yes. No, it's true. We all have mental health, just as we all have physical health, right? And sometimes it's not about you have to be in a crisis to receive support, or maybe you just need clarity, right? You need to make a decision of, okay, you're switching careers, and you spent 10 years in this and you want to dedicate the next 10 years to another, right? And having that guidance is important. I think we all need it. It's just, there's been a lot of stigma of you only need it if, your mind is gone, or you can't get out of your bed, or, many things are suffering around you, but that's literally the worst case scenario. Like, there's a lot of signs before we get to that point, where we need support. But we also brought up
preventative. Preventative.
Yes, that too.
Because our minds can take us to places. We can shut that right down with assistance from you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the mind can go far. It can go far, especially when we don't know how to regulate it, it can go even further, and that can be quite scary. But you brought up a good point too. There are different types of trauma. We have, we call it little T. Oh, you got it? Oh, okay. I was excited.
I was gonna just piggyback off that. We got a lot of trauma from our grandparents,
Right.
great grandparents. So everything passes down regardless of how we see it. If you don't think it's there,
Yeah.
it's there.
It's
just
there.
It's underlying. They were brought up see.
Yeah.
All of that's been passed down. So you gotta really try to break that curve, break that chain.
Yeah.
But knowing thyself is key, right? So.
Knowing that, right? 'Cause sometimes there's a lot of things when it's intergenerational trauma, is ultimately what we're talking about. It feels like it's normal. Like, it's normal to give silent treatment. It's normal to cut someone out when, you don't like how they commented on your outfit, for example. Or it's not. It's really not. You can have a healthy relationship with conflicts, because there's gonna be conflict. But knowing how to deal with it is so crucial and so sustainable in all relationships. But yes, what little T is what we call it, is like the stress, right? So we all experience stress, even if it's traffic. That's stress. Or maybe too much commuting can impact your mental health, right? Up until big T, which is what we call PTSD, where something quite significant, significantly traumatizing happened, and then now we're dealing with more symptoms on top of the event that occurred. I don't want to give an example because we all, unfortunately, I'm sure we're aware of what that means. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, you have none. Okay. We're still on about so what services we offer. So in person, virtual, consultations as well. So our consultations are 20 minutes long. They are virtual, although we offer in person. That's more like our full length sessions. And they're just to have an introduction to the practitioner. You can ask your questions to know, okay, I feel comfortable with you or not. And we can, of course, ask questions to make sure we're the right fit for you as well. For psychotherapy, nutrition. So who do we support? So as a practice, as a whole, as I mentioned, I'm more of 16 and older, but as a whole, and I haven't really mentioned my team. So there's a team of 10 psychotherapists, including myself, and 1 nutritionist. So all of us we all have our different specialties, but as a whole, we accept people that are 10 and older, couples, families, groups, and of course the BIPOC community, and also people part of the queer community. That changed really quickly. So what can we offer you? Ultimately, we can offer what you need. So there's a lot of practitioners to choose from, but we try to help you with the process if you're unsure of who is the right fit for you. And of course, you can also schedule a consultation and do your own research, because we can suggest something, but if it's not your vibe, then of course there's no. So concerns we support, when it comes to psychotherapy, various concerns, these are just examples of our most common. So there's anxiety and depression, identity, and life transitions and more. Are there any questions about what either of these could look like, especially with your question of how do you know you're ready?
With the other screen that you have about couples, is that as a couples therapy or?
Yes. Yes, couples therapy. So we do have 4, excluding myself, 4 couples therapists, practitioners. And one of our practitioners, he actually specialized in marriage and family. And with the nutrition, we support concerns such as weight monitoring, eating disorder, stress eating, IBS, as I mentioned, acid reflux, diabetes, or other chronic illnesses, and ADHD or neurodivergence. I think it's important for me to actually pause here because unfortunately there's a lot of diagnosis. Oh, do you have a question?
I just had a question, with the chronic illness, how would your sessions be, work around that, this question?
With a chronic illness?
Yeah.
So it depends. There's a lot of assessing that would need to happen. If someone comes in and, give me an example of chronic illness.
I'll say lupus.
Lupus, okay. Yeah, so certain chronic illnesses that people have to live with, there is a lot of mental health that revolves around that. So more often than not, it's not about solving anything because there's only so much you can do. It's more about how to cope, right? So how are you taking care of yourself? How are you regulating your emotions when you feel like giving up, right? Because your body's not cooperating with you. So it is very mental, although it doesn't solve the illness, unfortunately. But and then knowing what food to eat as well, because some can trigger an episode, or some just keeps it at least more infrequent. Yeah, that's a good question because sometimes clients come in, especially if it's their first time in therapy, and they just want everything to be solved and they want it to be quick, right? And I think that's where Western medicine comes in because it says, okay, here's a pill, about 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be good, right? Whereas mental health, it takes, and even nutrition, it takes consistency, it takes effort, it takes time. And I always tell clients, to like what you put in is what you would get out as well, right? So if it feels like, all right, this is too long, actually, if this is too long, it's more so, okay, how are you supporting yourself outside of sessions, right? Sorry, she has a question.
Well, like, given that, like, mental health is really stigmatized in the Black community,
Yeah.
if you have, like, people who are really problematic in your family who refuse to go to therapy, but you wanted to kind of, like, start, I guess, healing those relationships and things like that, what would you recommend as a way to, like, make it easier?
Yeah, make it easier. I do know it is hard, it's very hard to heal in the environment that a wound occurred in. Very hard, and that's not to be underestimated. A lot of when clients come with concerns about, they have issues with their mom, for example, they live with their mom. It is really about understanding how much you have control over, but also the accountability piece, right? Some people would say like, okay, my mom's always doing this, and she's complaining that I left the shoes at the door, the dishes in the sink, like I'm working, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I don't want to be here. So it's okay, how are you contributing to the dynamic, right? So taking that control in a different way. So it's not about controlling how the relationship goes per se, or controlling the other person, but controlling what you contribute. So redirecting the mind often helps. But that's easier said than done, of course. But yeah.
Just based on the slide, like, are you saying, I don't know, I'm just throwing a question in there, that there's a correlation between the nutrition of certain foods and the way that the mind is going to also work? Is that what you're saying, essentially saying?
Yeah, especially where I was going with ADHD, I think a lot of people don't realize how much, I think we do know that the stomach is the second mind. I think that's a common saying. And people with ADHD, because there's different neurological concerns, it often impacts how they digest food and the comfort they have in their belly, right? So knowing what food helps, with their stomach first, can help their mind function better. Again, we're not solving ADHD, but we're helping treat the symptoms of it. So they might feel more regulated when they eat more apples or have more omega-3s than when they eat processed foods, right? That's actually as a whole. Eating less processed foods does help your mind function better, but that's an example of how it can correlate to how you treat.
So I myself don't have diabetes, but a lot of us may want to like manage not getting diabetes, right? So we could say, well, did you come with like a nutritional plan of saying, well, if you eat these foods, we're better off not getting diabetes, and then also essentially then if you were getting the symptoms of diabetes, you can kind of like offset it and feel better in the body, the whole mind body.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like even stress eating, right? Some people when they're stressed they eat more. Some people when they're stressed they eat less, right? But regardless, it impacts your gut health, right?
Or the foods that harm.
The foods that harm.
Foods that harm. That's
Right.
what we eat when we stress eat.
Right. Right. It's usually you're not eating a carrot. If you're stressed out, you're probably eating something more savory or sugary. Right. So that would impact you, and then you probably mentally become more stressed because now your body has to overwork for not getting the nutrients because you're just eating sugar.
I have more of a comment on that, but like our brains are in our bodies, and our brains use 30% of our calories to work, and that's at rest. So it's like what you eat actually is the gas that your brain uses to make like different hormones you need.
Yeah.
Like you have different neurotransmitters that make you happy, that can make you sad and things like that. So like exercise, water, and eating like all the full range of nutrients that you need are really important, and like avoiding sugar is really important too because sugar actually has been linked to dementia. So it's not only it's not only like diabetes you have to worry about, it's like you can actually degenerate your brain faster by eating certain foods.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yes. Thank you
And
for the
it
stats.
affects all those things.
It affects, yes, everything is connected, right? And
pain.
Sorry?
And pain.
Oh, definitely pain. Definitely pain. If it's not mental, it's physical, right? So I know sometimes clients, especially as we're getting used to talking about mental health, we might want to target physical health first, right? So if you're feeling pain in your back, more likely to see a chiropractor before you see a psychotherapist about it. I'm not going to tell you where to start your healing journey, but I think it's important to consider what is also going on mentally, right? Because if you are not realizing how you're triggering your back, for example, because your mind might be clouded, then doing the chiropractor exercises for a bit, it could come back if your mind is still not paying attention to what the body is doing, right, to trigger it. So it really does go hand in hand. Your timing is your timing, but it is important to take care of yourself holistically because it is in one body. Very good question. Okay, so languages we speak, we have a lot of languages that we offer. Of course, yes, Caribbean patois is a language, and it's important to, yes, exactly. It's important to connect in your native tongue because some things you just have to say in your own cultural way, right? Like so go, right? You just have to say it like that. Instead of like it is what it is, even though it is what it is sometimes, but yeah, some things just hit deeper when you say it in your native tongue. So we do offer these languages of support. Okay, and different modalities we use, as I mentioned, I use emotion-focused therapy, but also a couple other of my teammates do too. And I'm just gonna list it out here. Any questions about any of these? I don't know how familiar you all are with different modalities. I can explain it if needed.
Dialectical behavior therapy?
Yes, so that is a lot, they're based on emotional regulation. So often people that experience, for example, borderline personality disorder, they struggle with regulating their emotions and having more like concrete tools, and they have a lot of actually great emotional regulation tools to help you naturally regulate. But yeah, that's in summary what that supports. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all for listening. Here's our information. Please do follow us, onepiecetherapy.ca, on all social media platforms. As mentioned, we do host monthly psychoeducational webinars, and we do have one coming up on May 21st by Jaleesa Hay, and she will be presenting on new beginnings and the different parts of new beginnings, so it's career, parenting, self, right? So please do tune in, and when you follow us, you're also notified when we have another free event for you to register to. And I do have some flyers as well, so you can keep us in mind. If you or someone you know do need support, then please feel free to refer or reach out. Okay, thank you.